Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as we work on cleaning up and adding some irrigation in this hosta bed. So let's go. When we first bought this house, this area right here was lawn. And it wasn't great lawn, but it was lawn. And then we eventually got ourselves some little ducks for our kids. And the ducks lived in this area, which was great because they fertilized it. But, eventually we got rid of our ducks. They got old. And so now I turned this area into a hosta bed. But it wasn't a full hosta bed. There are also a bunch of other perennials that have been mixed in this bed. So during the last few years, I've been working on pulling those perennials out, adding more hosta in this bed. We had some irrigation in here, but it was not drip irrigation. It was a sprayer head irrigation, and that's not optimal for this type of bed. You really want to have drip irrigation in here. The sprayer was causing the rust water to really make the hosta look bad. So we asked our irrigation guys to come out here and basically hook it up to our drip irrigation system. So they did put a tube in there, and we just need to now hook up all the drip irrigation into that. And while my husband's working on the drip irrigation, I plan on just working in this bed and doing a bunch of things. One of the things I'm going to tackle is edging this bed, and also I'm going to pull out any perennials that are in here that I don't want to be in here. So anything that's basically not a hosta. And then there are a few hosta that are a little on the larger side, and I'll go ahead and divide a few of them, and I'll show you how I divide the hosta. So there's a bunch of things to do here. So I want to take you step by step with what we're going to do. When we put the irrigation down, what we first did was we took a hoe and we kind of outlined how we wanted to put the irrigation down. And we'll see how it works for us. If we're finding that a few hostas still need additional water, we can always add some more water directly to one or two pieces of hosta. So after we took the hoe and outlined everything, we then put down the drip and did all the proper connections that we needed to do. The next thing we'll do is then test the water, make sure that it's working. And once we confirm that everything is working properly, we will then just bury it down beneath the soil about an inch or so deep. I used a tool called a half moon edger, and I just pressed down and made a very small cut just to make a nice clean cut along the edge here. And after I did that, I just used a hand rake and I pulled out each tuft of grass. So what I'll do next is show you a small section and how I go about pulling out the grass to make the nice edge. So you can see I've edged this section here, but then I stopped here. So I just push down, lift up, move along, push down, because I'm hitting a rock there. Push down, lift up, push down, lift up. The next thing that I do is I'm using a hand rake. I'm just trying to pull out any tufts of grass that are in here. I wanted to mention that I do have shredded leaves in here. I shredded them during the fall just to add as a protective layer on my bed. It also acts as a mulch during the winter months and even into the summer. And then finally, it's organic material that breaks down. And that's the reason I shred it, is so that it breaks down faster. So after I pull out the tuft of grass, I just kind of move it away from here just so that it makes a nice line. So I'll do the next section. I like to take out all the good soil. And I can add this clump of grass into my compost pile and it'll break down over time. Break any chunks that are in here. Looking to see if there's any grass that I left behind. Might as well finish off this last section. By the way, look how pretty this tiarella is. I love it. And that's how I go about edging all my flower beds in my yard. So all the drip irrigation has now been covered up, and I'm so glad to know that it's working. So that's a great feeling. I went ahead and dug out a bunch of perennials that were in this bed. So what I want to do right now is just dig up this hosta that's here. It's a nice large piece, and if you look behind me, there is a nice line of hosta that's going on there. But there are a couple of bare spots in here. There's one right here. It's a small bare spot. And then I do want to just extend at the end of this row, just a little bit around the corner. So it just makes a nice curve to end this pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and dig this out, show you how I divide it, and then go ahead and plant it and then water it in. So I want to be out enough from the base of the plant. I don't want to disturb or ruin the roots of the hosta. And gently start digging it out. Come on the other side, do the same thing. Okay, so it looks like there's a nice little small piece that just came off. And what I like to do is shake off any of the dirt that's on the roots, just to loosen things up a little bit. You can dunk the roots in water too if you want to, just so you can see things better. But I usually don't do that step. There's different ways you can divide your hosta. Some hosta can easily be divided by just pulling it apart. This hosta in particular, and many other types of hosta, especially the bigger ones, definitely are not as easy to pull apart. So with that, you can use a shovel. You can use something sharp like this. I believe it's used to cut rug with. You can use something like this hand saw, which I got on Amazon. You can use a hori knife. You can use a sharp knife in your kitchen. Something that's sharp where you're not going to hurt yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I go about dividing the hosta. The first thing I noticed is there's a nice spot right here where I could probably make a division. It's just kind of open for me. So I'm going to go ahead and slice right through that area. Give it a little tug. And there's my division. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and I'm going to plant this one division. I'm going to water it in, and then I'll finish dividing this plant, move it around, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. So as you can see, the pattern just goes down this way, and I'd like to have it just wrap around here. You can see right here that you definitely want to make sure when you plant your hosta that you're planting it this deep. I'm going to add some water to my hole. Make sure the roots are in. Backfill. Push down, backfill some more. Push down. Give it a little bit more water. At the border in front of the spring bulbs, I'm adding some summer annuals that I started from seed. It's coleus as well as pansies, and I'm just alternating between the two. So you can see here's a pansy, it's a blue color, and here's a coleus. So the distance that I'm using is just with my shovel. I'm checking for the irrigation because I know we added our irrigation here. And I'm planting right next to that irrigation line so that these annuals get good water. So since we have a coleus there, I'm going to do a pansy next. A lot of these are budded up. They're just not blooming. I think a big reason why they're not blooming is they just were in my greenhouse and they were not getting the amount of sun they really need. It was dappled sun. So they should thrive now that they'll be in the landscape. We had just turned on the irrigation, so the ground was pretty wet, but I'll add a little bit of water. Next, I will have the coleus. The annuals are definitely leggy. They want to be in the ground, but they will be fine. Now that they're going to be in the landscape, they will take off. Isn't this beautiful? I collected the seeds of my coleus last year, so it's kind of a surprise on what the different colors are that I'm going to get. I'll add a few more to end this pattern, but otherwise, this is done. A few more weeks, these annuals are just going to be beaming with color. And the hosta are just going to keep getting bigger and bigger, especially now that they finally have drip irrigation in this bed. I can't wait to see what it looks like. I still have plenty of hosta in pots, so if there are some empty spots, I will surely fill them up. I want to tell you about some of the perennials that I dug out of this bed. I had some Jacob's ladder, some columbine, plenty of weeds. I had a bleeding heart. It was a red color. Plus, I was so excited I found a bunch of little seedlings around it. So I dug those up, of course. And then I had some ligularia or bottle rocket. So I dug those up and found new homes for them in my garden. I still have a couple of Lenten roses or hellebores and a pink primrose, one stray bloodroot. I will get to those. I just wanted to make sure I showed you the progress of where I was at with this bed. It looks so good. But if you have a shady spot in your garden, hosta are the way to go. There are so many different sizes and varieties out there. I don't know the names of the hosta that I have, I can assure you that, but I have lots of different varieties in this bed. I hope you enjoyed this woodland garden project that I worked on today. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel, follow along, and until then, I hope you make it a great day with gardening.